Hello, it's Alexia here. Now I want to talk about clearance sessions and how long they typically last. So when you're doing a clearance session, and I'm specifically referring to doing a clearance session using head trash clearance, and I talk about head trash clearance in my book, Clear Your Head Trash, and I show you how to use head trash clearance so you can clear your own head trash using it. So this is what I'm referring to when I mean, how long does a clearance session last? So there are a few ways of having a session. So you can either sit down and do this yourself, and you can use my book to do that. You can sit down, you can have sessions with a head trash coach, or you might be attending some live group sessions. Or you might be listening to a clearance track that you can buy from the Clear Your Head Trash website, and also from the Fearless Birthing website, my website for helping women to prepare for pregnancy and birth. So how long does it last? Now, typically a clearance session, when you do it on your own, will last anything from 5 minutes up to 45 minutes or an hour. And how do you know which one it's going to be? Because that's obviously quite a difference, right? So, well, there is an emergency version, a quick version of the technique. And that's what enables you to do it in 5 minutes. Now, I actually was able to do sessions, clearances in less than that when I was pregnant. Well, when I was birthing a baby, during labor, in between contractions, right when the baby was coming out. So my daughter. So yeah, at that point, the contractions were 3 minutes apart. So I was getting clearances done in that 3 minute window. So you can do effective clearance work using the emergency version, the quick version, in under 3 minutes. But generally, I would recommend that you use the full version so you can get the full benefit of just doing a proper job, right? So, so that's where you really will be spending probably nearer 15 to 30 minutes to do your clearance. So what determines how long it's going to be? Well, that's very difficult to say, because I could say, well, the stronger the fear or the stronger the emotional load, the longer it takes. But that's not always been the case. So, for example, when I cleared my phobia of fears and my fear of needles and injections, which was a phobia because I would faint at the sight of a needle. I don't remember ever being in a doctor's surgery to kind of and come out conscious. I've always fainted and been carried out and left in the corner to come back around and be woken up and all that. So I was always very had a quite severe reaction as far as needles were concerned. And I was able to get rid of my needle phobia in under 5 minutes. So that really surprised me that I was able to do it that fast. I used the emergency version because I didn't have a lot of time. If you want to hear my needle story, then I think it's in the book. I might do a separate video at some point. But generally speaking, I think you're going to be in that 15 minutes to 30 minute zone. The thing is, what we're doing with this clearance method is we're kind of getting rid of that toxic emotional energy, and we just don't know how much of that toxic emotional energy is there, right? So, you could be sort of emptying a bucket load, or you could be emptying a swimming pool load. You just don't know until you dive in. And sometimes it can really catch you by surprise. So, I've been clearing my head trash using this method for many years. And even recently I sat down to do one and it just caught me completely by surprise. And I was there for over an hour clearing something that I expected to take 10 minutes. So it can really depends on whether you hit something that's really a biggie for you. And that's not always immediately obvious. It might be that you're super triggered or scared, or it's a big thing for you, or you might not realize how big a thing it is. It's one of those invisible, like elephants in the room, that you don't even realize is kind of affecting you in such a massive way until you kind of decide to do the clearance for it. So it's not always predictable. But generally speaking, when you first start doing the clearance, when you first start using head trash clearance, the first few clearances will take you nearer 45 minutes to an hour. And the reason for that, there's two reasons for that. One of them is that you're learning, you're in that first stage where you're like, oh, what we're doing, check the book, oh my God, clunky. You're literally going through stages of incompetence, competent, all those, like, I don't know what I'm doing, got to check, read the thing, go back, and you're kind of bumbling through it a bit. Whereas once you've got like maybe 3, 4, 5 clearances under your belt, you're like, whoa, I know what I'm doing now, yay. And so you're a lot slicker. So that will save you some time and allow you to be a bit more streamlined in your clearances. But that doesn't, I'm not saying that adds a lot of time. The other thing is when you first start clearing your head trash, and especially if you've not done clearance stuff before, where you may, this is new to you, you've not really done any significant healing, you've not been using any of the methods or tools or techniques to get rid of your stuff, then you've got a lot of stuff ready to let go of, right? So you can just imagine that you just got, wherever you decide to go hunting for your head trash, there's going to be a lot there wherever you go, right? Whereas if you've been healing your stuff for a while and clearing stuff for a while, then you've kind of lowered the load quite significantly already, and therefore it might not take as long. What I tend to see with my clients is that, especially those that haven't done any clearance work before, is at the beginning, and I say that, let's say in the first week or so, and this is where they're clearing maybe 5 to 10 things a week, okay? So in the first week, they might be taking up to an hour for their clearance, but by the time they hit week 2, they're getting that down to 30 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, because they're a lot more fluent with the method. They're really comfortable with it, but also they've cleared a load of stuff already, because I've identified their biggies. They've done all their biggies in week 1, and so week 2 they're working on stuff that's not so massive for them. So that's another reason why you kind of see that time frame going down. If you're having a session with a head trash coach, then that can take much longer, because it works very differently when you're with somebody else. Okay, so when I'm working with my clients, we don't kind of sit and just go through the whole process. We stop, we take a break, we see what's come up, what insights are coming up, we talk about it, explore what's come up, and those insights can be really, really brilliant and massively helpful and insightful. These aha moments that come up, and they're really worth stopping and looking at them and digesting them. So if you are doing DIY clearance, then I would encourage you to not kind of necessarily zip through the whole thing as quickly as possible and aim to do it really fast, but instead take your time and allow the insights, allow the conscious mind to catch up with the subconscious, because we're working with the subconscious with this method. So the conscious mind needs to catch up sometimes. And so to give it the chance to catch up and to process these aha moments, and just notice how your thinking is changing, how your perspective is shifting. Because what happens when you go through this process is your perspective shifts massively, it expands massively, new ways of thinking start coming into your mind, new thoughts that you hadn't had before start coming through, and allowing them to come through and noticing them, taking the time to observe them, notice what's happening to your body, notice how you're feeling, notice what else is coming up for you, what's connected to this thing for you, all that. This is what we do when we're having a session. When I'm with my clients, we allow that stuff to come through. So I don't want to rush that, because this is a huge part of the shifts that are taking place. Because when we are clearing our head trash, we're really able to change our thoughts. I mean, we're not changing our thoughts, they just change as a result of doing the work. So there's no effort on our part required here. So we're really an observer to go, oh my goodness, now I'm thinking this. Wow, I wasn't even trying to think this, now I'm thinking this. Oh, that's interesting. And what does that mean? And taking some time to really think about that. You might want to be writing notes at that point and processing it. One thing that I find a lot with my clients, because they do a lot of their own clearance work in between the sessions, is I say, well, how's your clearance work done? And they've got notes, and we talk through the aha moments and the insights and what that means. And sometimes I might spend the first hour just like going through all the ahas, and they're all really excited, and they're all like, oh my God, and I didn't realize this, and I did this, and that's a really important part of the work. So don't rush that bit, don't miss out on that bit, don't be so obsessed with getting it done in half an hour and miss all the gems at the side of the road. Like, take your time. So I would always allow an hour for a clearance, because then if you don't get it done quicker, brilliant, you can shoehorn another one in, but at least you're allowing the space to process it, to get the awareness, to get the insights, the ahas. Notice how your thinking has changed, notice how your feelings have changed about this thing, so that you can kind of land the work. Because the thing about using this method is that you will change, and the change that you're going to be experiencing is not change that you have to make an effort for. You know, when people talk about, oh, well, you need 90 days to embed a new habit, because you spend the first 60 days making a real effort to change your thoughts and your behaviors, and it's all effort, effort, effort. This is not like that. Your thinking will simply change as a result of doing this work, because whatever was blocking it, whatever was diverting it, the fears, the blocks, whatever was getting in the way is now gone. Right? So now you can kind of think in a different way about it that's going to be more helpful and for your greater good. So notice those changes as they're happening. Enjoy them, pick the fruit of the trees while you're there. Don't kind of zoom on past and miss out on all of that stuff, right? So yes, I was talking about sessions with a head trash coach. So yes, they can be longer because we're taking our time doing all of that kind of stuff. Now, if you're listening to an audio track that I've created, then I tend to create these so that you usually only need to listen to it once, maybe twice. I've started creating shorter ones that you might need to repeat and listen up to 3 times. And again, this depends on how much of the emotional energy that you've got that requires clearing. So you might find that you get to the end of doing one of my 10-15 minute audios, and one of those, you'll find all those in my membership, the Clearance Club, whereas the ones that I'm selling individually are much longer. So that's where the differences lie. But you might find that you reach the end of one and you're still feeling a bit antsy about the thing that you're working on. Well, listen to it again. But you generally don't need to listen to them more than that. But again, you end up needing to spend maybe 40 minutes on listening to something. So it kind of fits in with the time frame of how long it takes to clear something. You might find that sometimes every now and then something comes on and it requires a lot longer than an hour. But that's been pretty rare for me. That's happened. There are 2 things that I've ever had to clear in the last 10 years that have taken more than an hour. So that is very, very rare indeed. So I think you can be planned for under an hour and you will be good. Okay, I hope that has been useful in terms of helping you to plan your clearance time and to get the most out of using head trash clearance. Okay, bye for now.